I'm from Coventry. I've nipped over to see some lads who are running for Speed Electrics. Could I just say that Jennifer and Roy have arrived and we'll see them somewhere on the course. Best of luck to the lads.
Thank you very much. Right, let's move down and have a word perhaps. Right, gentlemen, good morning to you. So, St Helens, without the L. How are you?
Just up, good, yeah.
Good, you're looking to have a good run.
Yeah.
Great. Where are you, sir?
From Dundee in Scotland.
That's a hell of a long way to come.
That's a long way to go.
Yeah, you must have heard the reputation of the marathon.
You last night.
Were you? Have you brought people down from Dundee to run with you?
Yes, I brought my wife and 2 friends.
Grand. Well, what sort of time are you hoping to do?
Between 3 and 3.5.
Great. Hope you have a great time anyway. Right, all the spectators now, please.
Just move back up to the start line, lad. Right, we're ready now then, Festival Freddy, okay? When you're ready, okay? Away you go.
Hey, you should be in this. Come on,
Well, here we are at Dresden roundabout, just over 3¼ miles gone, and as you can see to the clock, 17:36 seconds as the Range Rover passes us. Jeff Millington, we were talking earlier about the conditions, but while we've been driving up to this point, it's been absolutely thundering down with heavy rain. It's died off a little bit now, but what will these conditions affect the spectators?
They will later on the course, because they may well feel that they've had enough and they can't wait for an hour and a half. But fortunately the rain is easing, and I'm pleased to say that the conditions are excellent for running. And I can see Adrian Reynolds here with Harry Clack from St Helens leading the bunch. Yes, followed by with Peter Orton from Burton AC. They're in the first 3. There's a batch coming now with Lionel Gowland, Graham Bagnall in the rear, Glenn Harvey in there tucked in. So we've seen some of the lead runners go through there. That's at least 8 or 9. There's a whole batch, so you can't pick them all out at this stage.
Is it really significant at this stage of a race?
Only if somebody does get away and hangs on to it, but experience in marathon shows that they can't do it. In our very first marathon 4 years ago, Mark Roberts broke from the field and was well clear and had to come out of the race at about 18 miles. So it's not too significant at the moment.
But is it possible that the leader has already gone through?
I think the winner has probably gone through.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. Yes, I'm sure the winner will already be in the first 20 there.
Well, here's runner number 3, who of course you can identify for us, Jeff.
Tony Kearns, who's a very good runner. In fact, he's just gone a little bit longer than he should have done there. Yes, Tony Kearns, who's a veteran runner from Kettering, a very good runner. He's well in contention for winning the race.
Is this time faster than you would have anticipated at this stage of a marathon?
It's just about par for the course at the moment because...
The marathon, we've just heard, there's the Milk Race. I believe is also, of course, the National Miners Race. And other events as well, I presume.
Well, they're the 3 main ones. What you've got to remember, there are races within the clubs themselves. The club championships are often held within this race, so you'll get the local clubs, perhaps their marathon for the year will be this race. And they'll applaud their lead runner as being the winner of their championship.
Are there any more faces you can pick out here?
Stuart Law, Nick Hambry, Jerry Calvert, Chris Pass.
Obviously quite a few spectators, considering we've had a little bit of rain here at the Dresden Roundabout. You know from personal experience, Jeff, when the runners come through, I would imagine the crowds really help them on their way, and this is the thing that's been said about the Potteries Marathon. That
is correct. The Potteries Marathon is certainly the best in my experience for warmth of reception from the crowds. Obviously London have bigger crowds because they've got a bigger population. But I run the London Marathon and you do feel a fraction remote because they're kept under control by the police. There are ropes keeping them away, whereas here you can almost touch the people. And this race is renowned for the warmth of the people.
Well, a tremendous amount of runners and so many different colours really as they come past us. And well, 26 miles is the course, so that means that just over 22.5 miles to go. And really, I would imagine that as the race progresses, Jeff, some of these runners are going to get a little bit tired. But one thing this year is they probably won't get overexhausted from the heat, certainly.
This is good for runners. In fact, you probably now find there'll be a lot more finishes than you would have expected. These conditions could not be better. In fact, I wish I was running in the race now that I get these conditions. The problem with the Potteries Marathon is, in the past 3 years, it's been so hot that a lot of people have suffered. It's all right running in heat, as long as you can train in heat. But in this country, we don't get the chance to train in heat. So this will be so much better for these runners. We recently did a 75-kilometre race in France, in Limoges, and finished 6th overall. They got a tremendous reception. He's just called to me, in fact. He got a tremendous reception in France. He did very well there. We just see going through Harry Keeling, no number on actually, but he is in the race. And Mike Bevan from Newcastle AC just gone through there.
We're actually on, what, 5.5 miles now, Jeff? And we're obviously at Normacott.
That's correct. And the time's still very good. Chris Copestick from Royal Dalton, Nick Hambry, Stuart Law. There's quite a spread out. I'm very surprised actually at how they've spread out so quickly. Obviously the banks in the early part of the race have really fetched the cream to the top of the race. And it's a much wider spread than I anticipated at this stage. We've got some more runners coming through now. We've got Jerry Calvert, who's a PMAC veteran. You can't always pick the numbers out when they're in crowds. Northern Dairy's runner across there. They've been doing quite a few relays lately. Philip Wayne, number 859 in the blue.
Well, they seem to be shouting at you more than anything else, so we're certainly still with it, Jeff.
Yes, well, quite a few of these blokes, I've run marathons with them, and I've gone around for 20, 25 miles with them, so when they see me on the side of the road, they're quite surprised.
Do groups of people stay together and run in groups? Is that sometimes the purpose of a marathon?
Well, of course, it helps them to keep the right pace. If they train together, then very often, well, they tell me, they very often find that one will go off a bit too quick in a marathon, but he'll be held back if he runs with a group. And if you go off too quick in a marathon, it's a disaster. Jean-Marie Best just gone through, Limoges runner. He's a top-class runner. He's done a 2:35 marathon. He's been across for all of our marathons. In fact, he's won the French part of this race before. He looks well up again, but I did notice there was someone in front of him, so how he's doing, I'm not sure. Chris Thorley's lost his number there. It's Chris Thorley from Newcastle AC. Now there's a whole batch of runners, a whole gaggle of runners coming through. See some veterans going through. You'd be surprised how good the veterans are in running. It doesn't seem to slow people down very much as soon as they get to the side of 40. In fact, they get a new lease of life.
Well, yes, indeed. Graham Bagnall, of course, is up with the front runners. He seems to be every year, and obviously more veterans coming through now. It really is a colourful sight, and that is the whole thing about the Potteries Marathon, any Potteries Marathon really. 4 years old, it's known as the friendly marathon, attracts entrants from all over Britain, and indeed, as Jeff's just said, from Limoges and other parts of Europe. But what a colourful sight as the runners now run along Normacart. But of course, the worst is still to come. I notice there's a little bit of a bank above us now. If we turn the camera around slightly, we can see the big bank that they're climbing up at.
Another chap there, Alan Walker, who did the Limoges run as well, 75-kilometre. We got you, John Rowland. John Rowland shout. There's quite a few runners shouting. Another group of Limoges runners coming through. In France, they do longer distance than we do. Across there, Mike Shadour, a local personality, white shirt, just put his hand up, running with Richie Bowditch and Dennis Frayne. Very well-known runners locally. One of our local publicans here, Jerry, the black boy is the pub he runs, and he's just coming up there. Very fast starter, Jerry, was looking to take it easy today. I'm quite pleased about that, because he normally blows up.
What I was saying, Jeff, was the bank here at Normacart, but this is the least of their problems, really, because if you consider other banks that they've got to climb, this is nothing compared to them, is it?
Well, the first 6 miles of this is basically uphill, and as a result, it sorts them out, and perhaps it does temper them a little bit, because when you get to Port Hill Bank at 19 miles, and to Holden Bridge, the run up to Holden Bridge at about 15, they really do take their toll. So if people have blown themselves up early on, they're going to struggle there. Plenty more runners going through. Stevie Locker's just gone through the picture. Ron Pyatt, Mick Locking, Dave Hawthorne, who's Newcastle AC treasurer there, number 14 across there in the red, blue and white strip.
How many runners, probably it'd be impossible to say, but how many runners would you estimate have gone through at this stage, Jeff, just roughly?
400 or 500 perhaps. I may be wrong there, but on the looks of it, perhaps not more than 400. We're coming up to that level, I should think, 400. Of course, don't forget, at this stage now they're coming through at 20, 25 every 10 seconds, something like that.
That's right. So how long will it be before all the runners have completed this particular stage?
Well, when you consider that people do take up to 7 hours for this, the bulk of the runners will be through... Hello, Bob. The bulk of the runners will be through, well, at 5.5 miles, they should be through by 45, 50 minutes, but then you're going to have a lot of stragglers who are going to be spread out, and of course you're going to have your fun runners who are pushing beds, pushing rickshaws and all the rest of it, and they're going to be well down, because they're going to be picking up for charity, and they're not worried about a time at all.
That's right. So the fun runners, of course, just having fun. That's the purpose of a fun run, and at the same time raising money seriously. All the training they've taken into it, all the weeks, all the months. I said before, actually, thousands of years collectively. But really, if you think about it, millions of miles, I would imagine, are run in a year through these people taking part in the Potteries Marathon.
Well, when you consider that they've probably run sort of 40 to 50 miles a week for 8 weeks, that's on top. That's just preparation for this race. They obviously run every week of the year, 25, 30, 35 miles. Some people do 60, 70, 80. Your top runners take up to 100. So you can imagine, you add it up. I mean, I worked out what I did in 1 year, and I've done 2,000 miles in a year, more than once. Here we have a lady runner coming through. I haven't seen others gone through, but across there in the green strip, Maggie Thompson, 292. She's looking away there. Come on, Maggie, dig in. Well done, Ken. Ken Weston gone through. Another lady runner come through there.
Would you say that Maggie is the leading lady runner so far? I personally haven't seen any other ladies go through.
It's possible, but I'd be surprised, because I'd expect Marilyn Frayne to be somewhere near the front, and Christine Kilkenny. It may be that we've missed one or two while we were setting up. But Maggie will be well up. She's done a very good marathon recently. She's done a 3.5-hour marathon.
Jim Fisher from Staffordshire Moorlands is running towards us out of Abbey Road. Is Jim on target, Jet?
It's difficult to say, because he's running alone. That means that he hasn't got an obvious pacemaker with him to stick with. He's in a bit of a vacuum, really. He's so far ahead of his next people and miles behind the one in front of him. So he's going to find it difficult keeping going at that pace, I think. He'd probably find it better if the two runners that are coming behind him catch him up. They'll help him to keep going then. In a marathon at this stage, if you're out on your own for a long, long time, you really suffer. So it'll perhaps be to his advantage if those two chaps can catch him up. Right, and today, in spite of the weather, there's still quite a few people here. But we've just got a trio here, Joe Giles and Doug Knight, two leading PMAC runners gone through there. The race actually is quite widespread now. The runners are surprising, really, but I think the early pace spread them out. And Phil Jones here, Newcastle AC going through. I'm quite surprised at how widespread they are at this stage. I would have expected quite a few more batches of runners together.
Well, number 708 just going through, and as Jeff is saying, the runners now seem to be coming out on their own. They're not in so many groups. I see on the distance of a camera there, we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 runners are running together, and some more groups coming back now. I would say perhaps at this stage we'll get a few more people in groups.
Well, you've got one there, John Robertson and Paul Atherton, Graham Bingham. Yes, these three have been running together all the time here. The three green vests, Stan Winterton, Dave Stubbs and John Keeling, all veteran runners. Stan Winterton there probably in the lead in the milk race. They are obviously getting the benefits of running together. One's taking the lead, the other one's following, and then later on, like the cyclists do, one will take the lead and they get a good, decent average pace all the way around.
Well, here we are on the Holden Bridge, Jeff, and really the Holden Bridge is one of the most gruelling aspects of a marathon race. It looks like Glyn Harvey's still in the lead, is that right?
Well, he's well up, along with Peter Orton, Dave Catlow, Critchlow, Harry Clark, St Helens, but Peter Orton's broken away here. He's taking 20 yards. Peter Orton from Burton AC, well-known cross-country runner. Yes, and the group of 4 there. Yes, Critchlow, Glyn Harvey just at the back of the group. So we have Catlow, Critchlow, Glyn Harvey just there. Yes, Adrian Reynolds is broken off. Adrian Reynolds, one of the early leaders, has fallen back. We can just see him in the distance. So, switch off there.
And Lionel Gowland are now coming up towards us. Is there anything significant about these two, Jeff?
Yeah, I think that Adrian's just dropped off a little bit there. Lionel was well behind him early on in the race. And I was talking to Adrian yesterday and he said that he was going to blast the first half. That may be, but it's taking its toll on him now. This bank's cut him out.
Paul, are we staying down? Are you outsiders up past us?
Kevin Mearden.
Paul, are we staying down? Are you outsiders up past us?
Kevin Mearden. Kevin Mearden, number 2476. There's anyone I spotted there. John Wagstaff. I just remembered it. John Wagstaff, Tipton AC. John Wagstaff.
Well, it's a grueling climb, and I would imagine if you're running it on your own, it must be even worse, really, Jeff. You've, of course, run the Holden Bridge before now. What was going through your mind at the time?
Newcastle AC. The fastest local runner we've had on time. Of course, he's a bit older now, but he still holds the local record.
Well, it looks like Graham Bagnall coming up as well. It's amazing, isn't it, how Graham's always near the front.
Well, Graham's had a few problems recently, but he's come back with a bang. He won the League 4 only last week. And look at the way he's going here. It looks as if he's got plenty left there to me. He's hit the top of the bank there with quite a little bit of gusto. Graham's well in the running for a place. In fact, he's catching up on the people in front of him.
Well, that's amazing. How many runners would you estimate have gone through at this stage?
You're only talking about the top 20 at the moment. You're all talking, all these people are sub 230 men, which means that they very high quality, top class in their own counties. And of course, some of them are veteran championship runners. They've qualified, they've been to the Olympic Games, the Veterans Olympics that is. So you're talking very high quality. In fact, the first 400 or 500 through are very respectable runners indeed.
running underneath the bridge. Jeff, tell me a little bit about Joe.
Joe's been running about 3 years. When he started, well, I've run many miles with Joe, and he recently did 2:33 in the London Marathon. And when you consider it took him 2 years before he could even get anywhere near 3 hours, it just shows you what the standard is these days. He's putting about 90 miles a week in, and he's running mornings, dinner times, evenings. He's put a lot of effort into it, and he's got himself up to being a very high quality runner from being just an ordinary jogger. Robertson.
Well, here comes John Robertson from the city of Stoke. And really the crowd spurring on John, and of course all the other runners as well. And we were saying earlier a little bit about the weather. It seems to have cooled off again. It's unpredictable really, the weather, isn't it, this year?
It certainly has been. In fact, it was going to be about 65, they said, but it's just getting up towards 60 now, I should think. They've had the benefit of the first 10 miles in coolish conditions, but now they'll start to suffer, I should think. In fact, we can just see probably the leader in the milk race again, Stan Winterton in the green vest, coming under the bridge. Behind him, another green vest is John Keeling, a veteran runner with a 2:41 marathon to his credit. And behind him, with a red stripe across, is Graham Bingham, a local man from Milton, who has done quite a few marathons and blown up, but he's now setting a decent pace, and I think he'll get a very good time today. Further behind still, in another green vest, we have Paul Atherton. Yes, Paul Atherton, that's right, 2:37 in London quite recently, followed by Dave Stubbs. And I think, don't go back, I can't make him out, but Dave Stubbs certainly, who has done a 2:35 in London this year.
Well, coming up in the green shirt
Paul Williams.
is Paul Williams. Tell me a little bit about Paul.
Well, Paul, again, has only been running for a couple of years, but he's improved vastly. And in fact, he's running along with Ernie Johnson from Stoke AC. Ernie's wife, Stoke AC, she's the secretary there, followed on by another well-known local celebrity, George Kay, who is the secretary of the North Staffs Roadrunners Association. George, again, is a 2:30 man. He's an ultra distance. He does London to Brighton. He does quite a few races that other people wouldn't even contemplate. A very hard man is George. Lecturer at the local Polytech.
Well, I think the Holden Bridge is something a lot of people wouldn't even contemplate, Jeff, but obviously everybody in the Potteries Marathon is going to take this task. It's going to take a few more hours than it will take others. How long do you think it will be before everyone who's taking part in the marathon has completed this particular gruelling aspect of a course?
Well, we're approaching 15 miles. Some people are going to take up to 6 hours, and this is where they're really going to start to slow down. Even the very slow runners are going to find this very tough. You're going to get an awful lot of people walking up here, so you're going to be here for 2-3 hours before the last people clear. If you look at the runners coming in the distance now, you've got quite a steady batch there. On the right in the green, you've got Terry Scally. In the middle, you've got Nigel Finch from Staffs Moorlands. Behind, you've got a Limoges runner, if I'm not mistaken. You've got David Taplin there, who did a 75-kilometre race in Limoges quite recently. But I feel that all these runners are going through are still 2:40 men. They're going to be well under 3 hours. So you're still talking top-class runners coming through. None of what you would call ordinary fun runners and joggers will be anywhere near this point at the moment. Club colours, so I'm not too sure. Look, yes it is. And we have another Limoges runner here. I'm sorry I can't pronounce the names.
Neither can I, Jeff, so we're certainly not going to blame you for that. How many Limoges runners are taking part in the event this year?
There are 37 altogether, and in the past they've had several people who get under 3 hours, and they've got some good runners. Of course, they've done a relay here this year. We'll just see how that takes it out of them. And a batch just going under with Chris Pass, Terry Foster, Chris Copestick from Royal Dalton's just gone through.
And another group of runners coming towards us now. And that's really the signs. There seemed to be a group, and then a break of one or two, and then another group. And that will really be the case all through the day, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think I was quite surprised early on, I must say, how they'd split up into groups. Because you normally get a lot of bunching very early in a marathon, and it seems that early on somebody must have pushed the pace a little sharp, and that spreads them out very early. And I was quite surprised about that, I must say. But it's probably the conditions did that. They were probably encouraged because of the early damp conditions and cool conditions to press on a little faster than they would have intended originally.
Certainly every one of these runners we're looking at are serious runners, and it looks like they're going to make Trentham at the time they're perhaps aiming for.
A couple of local characters here. On the left in blue is Barry Stokes, who has run to Limoges and back with myself a couple of years ago. He's in the Miners' Championship, and on his right with the neck chief there is Dave Trigg, who his last 4 marathons have all, he said they're all going to be his last one. He's run 4 last marathons in the last 6 months.
This is another one.
Yeah, he's a bit of a character, Davis.
Well, certainly quite a lot of characters in the marathon, and some more runners going now underneath the bridge. And 1 or 2 looking exhausted. Certainly the chippy just going under the bridge now looks rather tired. And who can blame them? What an exhausting climb it is up the Holden Bridge. Jeff.
Arnie Maxwell from Michelin here. He's a very well-known runner. He's done quite a few good marathons. He's a very good friend of Graham Bagnall. Of course, he's way behind him here, although he's run quite a few with him. So I'm presuming that Arnie hasn't been at full fitness. Otherwise, I think he'd probably be further up the field than he is.
Well, there we are, a really big crowd coming up the bridge now. How many runners would you say we're looking at now, if you look down all the way down the back of the bank there?
Or that we can see?
Well, we can actually see now.
In the distance now, you've probably got several hundred, 400 or 500 runners. The bunching that we've mentioned, there's been the lack of bunching that we've mentioned is now sort of being compensated for. They are really bunching in the middle of the field. But let's not forget, this isn't the middle of the field really. These are the middle to good guys, the people that will do 3 hours. But these people are still doing 40 to 50 miles a week training. They are what you call very serious runners. If you go out on a training spin with them, they'll show you.
I'm sure they will. The lady in blue, it's Christine Kilkenny. She is the leading runner, and she represents the city of Stoke. That would certainly be a local achievement if Christine won, and she's certainly going at it, Sam, isn't she?
Yes, I suppose she was the pre-race favourite. She had a baby only a couple of years, last year I think it was, and she's been slowly coming back, and she hasn't always been winning the races she's entered, but obviously she's a well-known and recognised top-class international marathon athlete. She once held the British record for the marathon, so you know the standard we're talking about here. So this is not a surprising thing. All we wondered was whether Chris was going to be fit.
Right, and obviously I think the question was also, would it be Chris we'd see first, or would it be Marilyn Frayne? And Marilyn Frayne so far has not come into sight. Is that usually the case with lady runners? There's quite a bit of distance between them, or do they usually tend to keep together?
In fact, I think she's here now. Let me just have a look.
Well, yes, it certainly looks like Marilyn Frayne, and as you can hear, the females in the crowd are certainly giving Marilyn a lot of extra encouragement, and she certainly deserves it. How many marathons has she been into now?
She didn't start marathon running until 2 or 3 years ago, and then she did ordinary races and built up to marathons. Now she's done a few, only a handful, but she's been very successful. She's under 3 hours. She did 2 hours 54:22 in London recently, and in fact beat Christine Kilkenny. So this race is far from over.
It certainly is. How many women are taking part in the event this year, roughly?
Well, it's about 100 entries. You never know how many are going to turn up on the day, because a lot of women, if they haven't got the training right, they won't enter, and quite right. So they've entered the race, but not always compete on the day. Here we have one of the Limoges runners. Looks quite fresh. Hey, don't forget that guy's run here. From France.
That's right.
We just see Phil Guest going through. Phil Guest had a lot to do with the marathon. He's a director on Royal Dalton, and he's been responsible for the medals in the past years. He's helped to design them and produce them. And we've got 1 or 2 characters going through here. John Rowland on the right in green, who at the moment is living in Southampton. He's come up here especially for today's marathon. Jerry Sigurt's going. The three, I don't recognise the guy, the three in the, no, I don't know.
In green.
No, but behind them we have Ron Pyatt, number 590, going through, looks fairly comfortable, been running very well, run to hard seasons cross country, and obviously going very well at this stage.
Well, the 16.5, 17-mile stage in Burslem Town Centre. But we hear news from the front. We hear that less than 2 miles to go now. And, of course, leading is that lad from Burton.
Mr. Orton. He came yesterday very confident. And obviously he's a lad who did very well last year in the Bolton Marathon. He finished second, so he's a tip-top runner. I think that the fact that he's attacking the record and is so close would be a bit of a surprise to a lot of people, but the conditions have obviously favoured him and he's very close to the record, and we hope he gets it really, because it's nice to see that kind of thing broken. We've just seen Peter Lee going past in the green sweater, Teddy Wagasso, another one in green, picking them out as we go on.
Another lady just come through actually there. Can you pick her out in blue?
But no, I didn't catch it. I didn't catch it, unfortunately.
That is the problem really, with so many thousands of runners, well, 2,700 runners, it's so difficult really to pick out everyone's face, and if you're watching the film and we haven't spotted you as you've gone past, well, we do apologise, but that obviously is the very nature of a marathon film, the fact that there are so many people taking part in the event. Are there any more faces that you recognise, Jeff?
Not too. One thing you do notice here is that for the first time we've got people walking. Now, you've got to think in terms that the winner's just about home, and here we are, 16 miles, and people have started to walk. Bear in mind that the conditions have changed fractionally now. Instead of
Another lady coming past us now, that's number 2957, and it's
Handy Cross. Pauline Lynch there, that lady from Handy Cross.
And yet another lady coming up now. Difficult to see her number because it's moving about in the wind, and there's other numbers in front. 2493 I think it was, but there she's gone past. There's another gentleman who's actually walking, and that seems to be the thing, people walking, they're not actually stopping, they're just walking, getting a bit of breath back, and then they're off again, aren't they?
Well, as I say, they're in between two of the hardest bits of the course, and they're a bit afraid of it. And surprisingly, you might not realise it on the film, this is where they are now. It's a little bit of an incline, and as a result, they still haven't recovered from their full endeavours at Holden Bridge, and they've just got the prospect of Port Hill. This is the really toughest part of the course.
Well, Brian Davis has just gone past. Brian is actually from the Queen's at Basford. He does a tremendous amount of work for charity, and now people with sashes on. Here come some of the charity runners. Eric Jarvis is just going past us now, and Barry Bunn as well. Really is a colourful atmosphere here, isn't it?
It's terrific now, but I don't think the runners are feeling so terrific. This is almost certainly the worst part for them. Here we are again, another gentleman here with a muscle injury. Kevin Hancock. Is he going to make it, Kevin?
Well, there we are. Let's see if Kevin can make it over the finishing line. We'll see, of course. And the other runners, a gentleman there with a hat on, obviously, in case of a sun. But we haven't really seen the sun as bad as it can be today, have we?
Well, it's the easiest marathon in terms of weather conditions that we've had. One of the problems is the diversity of it. We had the cool weather and the rain early on, and now we've got sunny conditions. So some of them probably went off a little bit faster than they wanted to at the start of the race, and that is what's probably causing them to suffer a little bit at this stage. They were encouraged to go too quick early on because of the decent conditions. Now the sun is out, they're suffering.
Different things.
We've got the winner, sorry. Val Jones. Number 2959, if she just show herself here, Val Jones, behind the gentleman in the hat.
Well, she's hiding, but Val is there, and
Come on, Val.
she gives us a wave. In fact, more importantly, let's hope she gives a wave to the camera. She's another one of our female runners. Although we are people running with sponges now, and they certainly need them. Adrian King just coming up towards us. That's number 2145. What do you know about Adrian?
Not a lot, actually, apart from the fact that he's obviously a first-time runner who's probably approaching the race very sensibly. Stephen Mattyler here, number 1473. He's been running 2 or 3 years, and he's run quite a lot of marathons, approaching this race very sensibly indeed.
Well, Steve, of course, like a majority of the other runners who have been taking the time, the excitement hasn't gone too much to their heads. They're running steadily. They've probably set their time. They know exactly what they want to do. And hopefully they will be at the finishing line on target. Do you think that when you're running, are you still conscious of the fact that you've got to beat a particular time, the time that you set yourself?
Once you've been running for a while and you notice vast improvements every time that you go out on the road, then you start to run against targets. And there's a danger that you can overdo that and not enjoy your running so much. So it's therefore important not to try to beat your times by too much. Just let your natural fitness make a progression. As you can see, a lot of these runners, they're first-time runners, and they'll go out for a better time next time. But if they try to do too much, then they're the ones that will flake out and fail to finish the course.
Looking at ages, there's all types of different ages, the not so young. Can you tell me roughly the youngest entrant and possibly the oldest entrant, or what ages are there in between?
Well, of course, there's an age limit. You can't run a marathon unless you're 18 years of age. So we do have quite a lot of 18-year-olds. But over 60, you'd be surprised how many people are capable and do run marathons very, very well. Look, take Reg Fernio, for example, who's in this race. I'm not sure where he is in the race, but he's probably very well up there around the 3-hour mark, or even less. He's well over 60. He's a terrific runner, a great advert for running. 1514 going through there. Another one, Kevin Plant, 2391. Another lad that's been running for 2 or 3 years. They don't try to do anything too ambitious. They're just going to go around. They're the people who will come in very safe and sound and will look good at the finish. Not too worried about their time.
Tell us a little bit about Mick. I believe he's a personal friend of yours, Jeff.
Yeah, I know Mick very well. He's a real character. He's run a lot of marathons. He's run as a pirate. Well, he's running all sorts of stuff. If you name it, and he's run as. And here he is as the devil today. He runs for charities all the time. He's playing take music at the same time as he's going round. Mind you, Mick's a damn good runner. He could run very fast. But here he is, getting the cheers of the crowd, well deserved. And Mick does a lot for charity.
Well, there we are, Mick Pyatt, just one of hundreds of charity runners in this year's Potteries Marathon. Ron Goodley, isn't it?
Ron Goodliff, 998, a very well-known runner locally. Obviously, just struggling a little bit today, a little bit of a limp there from Ron. But knowing Ron, he'll be around in no time at all. We've got, in the distance, Peter Sadula and his dog. Now, Peter's run a lot of marathons. His brother's a well-known marathon runner. But now Peter won't go anywhere without his dog. And the dog goes round the course. Here we are, 3 hours. For about 20 miles, both of them looking good. And believe it or not, it's harder for the dog than for Peter.
It's amazing, really, isn't it? Hello, Peter, how's it going for you?
Not too bad, thank you. Too bad.
That's great. And I suppose the dog will want to drink as well in a minute.
Oh, yes, he does.
What time are you estimating to get over the finishing line?
4.5, I hope.
4.5 hours, great. Well, enjoy your liquid refreshment. You're on course, and we wish you all the best of luck. Obviously, we'll see you going over the finishing line as well, hopefully.
Okay, thanks.
There we are, that's Peter Sadula running with his dog, well refreshed, and off he goes. And obviously he's got the backing of all the crowd here in Newcastle's Iron Market. In fact, Kath Thornton is a local beauty queen, and her boyfriend, they're running in aid of a children's research fund. They've just gone past us there.
Bobby Halkett.
Like a market then, could you?
Cheers. Oh, get to the finish.
Well, Bobby Halkett, who I know this year one of the things that he's running for is actually an aid of Phoebe Poole, who is a 1-year-old little girl who's been suffering from epileptic fits. Somewhere in the marathon is Andy Poole, who is the managing director of a local travel agent, but he is actually running his very first Potteries marathon in aid of the well-deserving cause of his niece Phoebe. But Bobby Halkett actually for many years has been running for charity, hasn't he?
He's done a lot of work for charity over the years. He's only just recently taken up running, a couple of years ago, but he's always been a charity man. And last year he raised thousands of pounds on the Potteries marathon alone. He's a very good chap for charity, Bob, and a decent bloke to boot. I've known him for quite a long time. I just hope he gets around. He's looking fairly strong there, but you could see he got 1 or 2 little niggles. So I just hope he gets around, because there's a lot of money riding on him.
Well, people are walking. They're struggling the way up the Iron Market, but let's hope, as we saw in Middle earlier, that they can get spurred on, that they can get that little bit of energy. They've gone, what, something like 6 or 7 miles to go now. Really, the weather isn't going to help them now on this last period, is it?
Well, the problem is that these people are now struggling. They've had the effects of heat after they've perhaps run a little bit too quick, too early. They were encouraged by the damp conditions early on. They perhaps went a little bit too sharp, and now that the sun has come out, although it's still good conditions for running, they've probably had their spirit broken by the sight of the sun, having gone too quick. But you know, they're struggling on, and I think they'll all finish at the moment. It's when you've got an injury that you don't finish. The ones that are struggling through tiredness, they'll struggle on and they'll get over that line.
Well, so they come. How many more? I would imagine there's probably well over 1,000 more people still to come through.
Difficult to judge, but at 3 hours, we've just gone beyond the 3-hour mark. I would say that we're certainly well over halfway. I would probably think that we've got 2,000, approaching 2,000 coming through now. I would think there's about another 600 or 700 to come yet.
Here comes a clown, Paul Lisseur, number 470. And it would be unfair to say he's clowning about, but really, the spirit of the occasion, he's actually enjoying it, isn't he? Which is what marathons are all about. There's actually somebody skating here. I don't know if they're seriously competing in the marathon on skates. No, I don't think they are. But really, that's what it's all about, isn't it? Enjoying it at this stage of the competition anyway. Just enjoying it, perhaps raising a bit of money for charity.
They're raising money for charity. Whether they're enjoying it, I'm not too sure. They're really beginning to struggle now. These are people that perhaps haven't done as much training as the others, and after 3.5 hours on the road, they're really beginning to suffer. The heat has increased slightly. It's still very good conditions for running, but if you haven't done the training, it doesn't matter what the heat is, you're going to suffer.
Do you think some people then actually enter a marathon without training? That's very difficult to believe, surely.
I'm absolutely convinced that some of them do it just for that very fact. There's always the chap who says in the pub, right, I think I will have a go at it. They get talking about it, I'll have a go at it, I'll prove I can do it. He perhaps doesn't do more than a few days running. It's not enough. For a marathon, you need to do steady training for periods of 6 to 8 months or longer. Specialised training. But part of the fun of the occasion is if you're prepared to walk a bit and struggle a bit and not push it too hard, you can get round a marathon course, but it's going to be very hard work. And this is what you're finding now with these people. Everyone that's coming now and behind will struggle to get round the course without walking.
Well, here we see number 2902, Pauline Wakefield, and Pauline's walking, but no doubt when the crowd see her, they'll give her every bit of encouragement they possibly can, and I'm sure she's going to make it, Jeff.
She's still got a smile on her face, and she doesn't look too badly. I think she's going to make it without too much trouble. She'll just suffer a little bit, but she'll get by.
A gentleman there, number 613, looks to actually have cramp. He's gone past the camera. Some more people running now. One thing about them, as they say, another lady walking past us now, or running past us. Whatever anybody says, everybody is enjoying the occasion. The crowd are spurring them on, and really the sun's out, and that will make it a little bit worse until they get back now. The remaining 5 or 6 miles to Trentham. Jeff, is there anything you can add to the occasion at this point?
Well, it's more or less suffering all the way now for these people. It's guts, courage and suffering. And that is the thing that makes a marathon great. If you are at this level of running and you can get by, it's a fantastic achievement. It's almost more of an achievement for these people than for the people at the top end of the race. I've got nothing but admiration for these people that are coming by now.
Clock is busy ticking away there. 18 minutes 26 seconds. The band has just struck up to greet the winner in. So it looks very much, yes, I can see over the other side the people getting very excited. The lead vehicle has just entered the finishing straight. Let's hope we are on for this 2:20. Let's lift him up round the gardens, ladies and gentlemen. Let's lift Harry Clack up round the gardens. You can hear the cheers as they come round. He's into the finishing straight now, number 7, Harry Clack from St Helens. Looking really well. Well done, Harry. Brilliant run. Unofficial time there as he passes through the finishing line. 2 hours 19 minutes and 5 seconds, the official time just sent over to me from the 3A's officials. So that's 2:19.05, a new course record. That breaks the course record set by John Offord in 1983 of 2 hours 20 minutes and 40 seconds. And the crowd up the far end are cheering now, so the second runner must be well in sight. Yes, and he's just turning the corner now. It's Peter Orton from Burton. Obviously, these guys have had a real battle all the way round. Enjoyed the battle. Pete had a real hard run there. He gave up work some time ago, sent his wife out to work so that he could concentrate on his training, and obviously it's paying off. He also was under 2 hours 20. 2 hours 19:48, the 3A's people shout across to me. A huge cheer for Colin as he crosses the finishing line. 2 hours 21:03. 21:04. They're shouting at me here over the finishing line. 21:04. Obviously a huge battle gone on round the course and people here waiting in the gardens for the loved ones to arrive. We're all watching the stars finishing now, but it's all about everyone who's taken part today. All the people who've put all the work in throughout the last 12 months and more to be able to get down here today and to take part in this occasion. The fourth runner just approaching now. And I hope somebody's going to tell me who this fourth runner is. Number 2636, just crossing the finishing line. And we're all busily looking through the programme there because we weren't listening to Harry eagerly enough around the course. We're expecting Harry on the finishing line at any moment. David Catlow, in fact, that was just finishing. Sorry for this, on the finishing line. We don't know all the names, but we will try and keep you informed as they finish. And we're hoping to go over to Harry pretty soon with a report from the leaders.
I counted them on my fingers.
They'd run out of fingers after that, so it's a good job we hadn't gone any farther. So we're all waiting for the next runner. Perhaps the people give us, we're getting some reaction from the far end of the finishing straight now. Obviously we're not going to be able to pick all the names out. We're not going to be able to tell you exactly who they are. We're waiting for the first local runner. This is Brian Emerson. Brian was 5th in the Edinburgh Marathon in '84 in 2:22. Obviously he suffered a little bit towards the end of the race today. Looks a bit weary. It's all well and good for the leaders when they're coming in. You sort of get this extra surge as you come down the finishing straight. You've seen the clock there and you're number 1, but when you have been broken off the back of the bunch, when you've done so much work early on, it is very difficult. And obviously it needs you, the public down here in Trentham Gardens, to make sure that we can lift them those last few yards along the back straight and down into the finishing straight. If you can keep lifting them up and make it really worth their while to arrive here. It's been a tremendous achievement, obviously, to get round, and if we can just make those last few strides, it'll make it all the worthwhile for them. Obviously the condition. It's John Wagstaff from Tipton. Well done, John. John regularly attends the races here. I think he loves the races in the Potteries. Well done, John. That was a wry smile there. You lot over the other side wouldn't have seen that, but he took one look at me, and I'm not sure whether it was a smile, a grimace, or what it was, but well done, John, anyhow. Jack Maitland from Edinburgh. And first of the local lads from St Helens, Glenn Harvey, probably first in the Miners' Championships. Well done, Glenn. Glenn will be quite pleased with that time.
Who is he? The First Lady.
We're told that the First Lady is now within the gardens. The First Lady should be with us at any moment of time. And you'll see her as soon as I can, as she comes round the corner. Tony Bell, another one of the Stonemaster. And here she is now, Christine Kilkenny. Christine Kilkenny from the city of Stoke. In fact, she's very, very close to her own personal best. So that's tremendous, more or less a personal best on our course. So it just goes to show we aren't perhaps as tough as that after all. Michelle Labo, another one of the Limoges runners. Well done, Michelle. So we've the First Lady in now. So if we can start and clear the photographers away now, please.
These lads are still 2 minutes inside the 3:30 mark. This is fantastic running under these conditions. We all thought it was going to be one of the cooler Potteries marathons, but the weather's... James Cooper's just finishing there. That's it, arms up in triumph. Brian Golding finishing strong. Well run, Brian. That's the spirit, lads. Get those arms up for the photographs. And they've still got the strength, not the balloons around. Rod Ushelwood finishing, Royal Dalton. Gary Mellor finishing now. We've got a sprint finish here. And he's... strong finishing here, and these lads are still under this 3.5 hour mark. They've battled for around 26.2 miles now, and they're going to do it. Gerald McLaughlin from Northern Ireland just finishing. I don't know how these chaps feel, but it's warm enough just standing watching them come in. They must be suffering out on course today. It's been really hot again. Rod Gray just finishing strongly there.
Barry Charlton. Barry is a junior record holder. Tell me exactly, Barry, what time did you do the marathon in?
3:45, 12 seconds today, and it's a personal best for me as well.
You're obviously delighted.
Yeah, I'm very pleased with it. I'm hoping to bring it down next year again though.
Did you keep it exactly the pace you wanted all the way around, or did you go a little bit faster at the beginning?
No, I lost out time. I wanted to do 2:40, but I was trying to take my mate around with me, and I had to drop him at 13. I carried on from there.
I think over this sort of distance, it's the blokes of my age what come well off, because we have more stamina than younger people. Younger people are made for shorter racing. You'll always find, say, in the top 20 home, I'd say at least 15 are nearly 40 or over. Yeah.
Graham Bingham, thanks very much. On behalf of Video Occasion, all the very best of luck to you.
Okay, thank you.
We thought that Peter Orton from Burton was the clear favourite. He broke clear, and he did absolutely everything, really, and everybody was saying, well, he was going to be the record holder. But Peter was actually beaten by Harry Clagg. Really, it must be terrible, really. You've beaten the record of Ian Thompson, John Offord, and previous people, but at the end of the day, you've actually only come second, and really, I suppose that must be a little bit disappointing for you when you did so well.
It's a little bit disappointing, but then Harry, who beat me, he's a good runner, you know, so I can't take it away from him. He won on the day, and I broke my personal best, so I come here today to try and break my personal best, because every marathon I've run faster. I thought it might be a tall order today because the course is so tough, but I broke my personal best again, so Harry's, he's quite a bit older than me. He's a lot more experienced than me. So you know, it's a good run. It's a step up in my career as a marathon runner, you know.
Well, in the past, when Ian Thompson and John Offord, I think I'm right in saying, well, I can't remember which way round it was, but one won it the first year, the other one won it the second year. Are you going to now come back next year and say, well, yes, I'm going to beat Harry?
Hopefully. Actually, John Offord, he helped me a lot today. I know John very well, and he gave me a lot of advice on the course, and it was, you know, it paid off. But hopefully I'll be back again next year. It just depends what comes up, you know. I can't say. You know.
Peter, the very best of luck to you. You've done marvellous coming second, and I'm sure all the thousands of people that line the route will wish you well in the future.
We're fantastic in Stoke, no doubt about it. Great.
Run, we mentioned the mentally and physically handicapped runners who were completing the marathon, and with me now is Jane Winfield, who is the press officer of the North Staffordshire Special Olympics. Obviously the first question, Jane, is what exactly is the Special Olympics?
Well, it's for the mentally handicapped, and it's for all sorts of sports. They do fishing, they do canoeing, volleyball, swimming, and then they've just come back from the Isle of Man to do the swimming and the running. Collected about 33 medals there. Okay.
So how many people in your group have run today?
16, and they've come from 4 different centres. They've come from Stallington, Newcastle, the Adult Training Centre, and Guidelines, Caldon College.
And I believe you've run yourself as well. What was your own time?
About 25 minutes I did in, I think it was 3 miles I did in about 25 minutes.
You just ran the last stage, did you?
From Holden Bridge to Port Hill Bank with a tiny little girl, and then we ran the last 2 miles all in together with about 4 of us.
Jeff Millington, when we started outside Trentham at 10 o'clock this morning, you said that the weather conditions were going to make it a fast race. I don't think even you thought it was going to be as fast as it actually turned out.
No, to get 2 people under 2 hours 20 is quite a surprise. The conditions were great, absolutely perfect for running, certainly for those that were in good training, so at the top half of the field. But to get 2 people under 2:20 is a phenomenal achievement. And Harry Clagg and Peter Orton really deserve every congratulation for doing what they've done. I'm delighted that they've done it, and to get 2:19 is a wonderful achievement.
Are you very pleased? Of course, you've come around with us today as a co-commentator, but you are, of course, a race official. You're in charge of registration. In general terms, are you delighted with the way the marathon's gone this year?
Thrilled to bits. I think it's been a great marathon. We've had, again, very good crowds on the route. In parts, they were affected by the weather.